Primal Chaos.
Hey guys, Primal Chaos here. Welcome to the channel. Today's episode is brought to you in part by Enchroma Glasses. Enchroma makes corrective lenses and glasses for people with all kinds of color deficiencies. So if you're colorblind or you know someone who is, check out their website. And if you use the code CHAOS in checkout, CHAOS, you'll get 10% off. Tell them Primal Chaos sent you. All right. So I've done 2 home free videos now, and I'm really digging them. I love to see the directions they go in because, as you guys have mentioned, they're not all country. They do a lot of stuff. But I made the mistake of also mentioning that I'm a Boyz II Men fan. I do like Boyz II Men 2 is a great album. The one with 4 Seasons of Loneliness on it as well is a great album. But, you know, if I got one comment that said you should check out End of the Road by these guys, I got a million, right? So with that being said, let's just jump right in. I know what to expect. It's just going to be amazing. Thank you so much for everyone in the comments who's been sort of pointing out who's doing what voices and stuff. It's still really unclear to me because there's so many members doing different things. So if I say the wrong thing or call someone a bass who's a baritone, I apologize. I'm slowly getting there, but there's so many comments, and it's the funny thing is the more information coming in and the more comments I read, the more it should slip into place. But for me, for whatever reason, it just gets more and more fractured. So at the end of the day, I enjoy the great harmony. So don't stress too hard if you feel like I'm missing out on who's doing what and stuff like that. I'll do my best. So here we go. Boyz II Men 2, End of the Road, home free cover. Here we go. Oh, nice.
We belong together, and you know that I'm right. Why do you play with my heart?
Come on.
Why do you play with my mind?
Oh.
Said we'd be forever. Said it never died.
God, they sound like a synth.
How could you love me and leave me and never say goodbye? Oh, I can't sleep at night without holding you tight. Girl, each time I try, I just break down and cry. The pain in my head, oh, I'd rather be dead.
Oh, he's got such a beautiful lift in his voice, right?
Although we come to the end of the road,
Nice.
still I
Come on.
can't let go. It's unnatural. You belong to me. I belong to you.
All right, I'm going to stop there before we get too far into the weeds. Do you know what's interesting, right, about listening to these guys? I mentioned during the playback there that they sound like a synth because they're so in tune. You can almost picture somebody playing each of their notes on a keyboard. They're playing chords, obviously, which is, I mean, that's what harmony is, right? It's chords. But as someone who listens to a lot of rock music and a lot of, a lot of everything outside of this sort of genre, there's a certain point where you accept that people sing out of tune, right? And a lot of times you don't notice it. It's one of those things, actually, once you sort of start to get a better ear, you go back and listen to a lot of the rock bands and stuff you listen to in your formative years and find that some of those singers never hit a note in their life. But it doesn't matter because it's rock and roll, right? And you get the intention, they're always singing up to the note. And in a lot of ways, that sort of adds something to the character of the song. It feels more pleading or more interesting or more aggressive than if they were locked in, which is part of the tragedy of everything being tuned nowadays, is that all the notes are so locked in that you can't really, there's not that yearning to get up there, like for a high note, like bringing it up. You're just instantly there. You just, that's the note, right? But with bands like this, where it's all about the harmony and the pristine connection of all of those harmonic nodes coming together and just vibrating together in unison, it has to be pitch perfect. And so hearing singers, these guys have to have better ears than just about everybody in the music business who are singers. Like, don't get me wrong, some people are freaks and they just have brilliant pitch to begin with. But it's not something that I think is taught enough. It's like, as long as you're singing the song roughly in key, that's good enough, and as long as it sounds like you're feeling what you're singing. But these guys have to be so precise, and it's the same with pentatonics as well, and everyone else who does a cappella. it just, to me, it starts to sound a little bit unusual because this isn't what I usually listen to. And I'm used to giving vocalists a certain amount of leeway as far as singing up to the note, or even sometimes being a little bit sharp. Not to any degree where you'd really notice, but you can just tell that it's not quite right on the money, you know, unless it's tuned. And then you hear it and you go, man, this is really auto-tuned. Again, the other thing I want to point out is I'm not sure who was doing the bass guitar style bass line. But again, they just feel like an authentic bass player. So that's what I mean. That's what I meant the other day when with the other video where I said, it seems like whoever's arranging this vocalization understands bass from a bass guitarist's perspective. I wasn't saying that there's a bass guitar in the mix. I was saying that it sounds like whoever's coming up with the bass line understands what a bass guitar's role is overall in the music. So anyway, I've talked too long. Let's jump back in. I just want to jump back a bit because, man, some of these solos.
The pain in my head, oh, I'd rather be dead. Spinning it around and around. Although we come to the end of the road, still I can't let go. It's unnatural.
Is that bass? Come on.
I belong to you.
Bass guitar.
I know you really love me. You just don't realize.
God, he's got
You've never been there before. It's only your first time. Maybe I'll forgive you. Maybe you'll try. We should be happy together forever. You and I. Will you love me again like you loved me before? This time I want you to love me much more. This time instead, just come to my bed and baby, just don't let me down. Although we've come to the end of the road, still I can't let go. It's unnatural. You belong to me. I belong to you. Come to the end of the road. Still I can't let go. It's unnatural. You belong to me. I belong to you. Lonely, lonely,
Come on.
This time instead, just come to my bed and
I'm sorry. I'll go back and I'll give this part the respect it deserves. But man, that bass solo is amazing. But the harmony going on beyond it, like behind it, is just like a lot of credit's got to go to the Boys to Men guys, because these guys are taking what they're standing on the shoulders of Boys to Men, who originally came up with a lot of these harmonic concepts. But it's just intense, you know, like here we go.
this time instead, just come to my bed and baby, just don't let me down. Although we've come to the end of the road, still I can't let go. It's unnatural. You belong to me. I belong to you. Go to the end of the road. Come to the end of the road. Still I can't let go. It's
I like a good ad lib.
you belong to me. I belong to you. Go to the end of the road. Still I can't let go.
Well done. All right, so I just paused it for a second there because I just wanted to bring up the members, which kind of confuses things even more because there's so many former members that it seems like. I'm guessing that we're looking at Austin, Tim, Adam Rupp, Adam Chance, and Bob Lundquist. It also says Chris Rupp up there, who seems like, but it doesn't appear to be in this one. One thing I wanted to jump in and say just before I forget is like, I don't think I've ever heard a beatboxer who is so capable of representing the absolute sound of a snare drum, like a real snare drum before, as well as he does. It genuinely sounds like samples. It doesn't sound like a beatboxer. It's phenomenally good. There's just a depth and a crack to it that, you know, and that telltale snare kind of hiss in there that I just was listening to it going, how is this even real? You know, it's phenomenal. I mean, I know that it is, but it's just, you're looking at it going, it doesn't make any sense coming from the perspective. And I've got these are amazing headphones, right? These are top shelf. You can hear everything and you would hear if it sounded fake, you know, but oh man, that was so good. I like, Rob really took the lead on this one and he has such a great sort of soloing tone for this. And obviously he took a lot of the ad libs and stuff like that in the outro as well. It would do a disservice to both Boys to Men and Home Free to compare the versions, because as much as they're doing the same songs and roughly the same arrangement, I think it's two completely different styles of performance and two completely different bands, acts, I should say. Whereas I was looking at this going, boy, like you can take the boys out of the country, but you can't take the country out of the boys, right? Like they've sort of picked them up and dropped them in like an urban landscape, but they still look country. And I don't mean as in, you know, flannelette shirts and stuff. They just have the feel of boys from a more rural background, if that makes sense. And I don't even know where they're from, right? But they have that flavor of Home Free. What I'm getting at is they seem to me to be way more comfortable standing around that campfire singing with Avi Kaplan, rather than having to move like pop stars, if that makes sense. And I don't mean that as a slight on them. They did a great job and everything, and this clip is really cool. Musically though, spectacular. Like these guys, as much as this is only the third thing I've heard of theirs, they just don't stop impressing me. They just keep getting better and better. So I would have loved in the mix if there was a little bit, if the bass was mixed a little bit higher, because I feel like sometimes it's not that it was mixed wrong. I think it was mixed too accurately. I think sometimes you need to give it a little bit of a kick in the pants. Boy, just like they just make some great choices, and they're just all individually such amazing talents, and you bring them together and they just create magic. It's phenomenal. The other thing that I found, and again, I don't want to compare the versions, that was a little bit different, is these guys seem to be a little bit more measured in their performance. The joke that I always have when talking about Boys to Men is that they do, you know, your verse, chorus, and then they'll drop back and they'll do the low spoken word part with the bass. And then that's when they get Wanye and they grab him from the back of the stage and they take the leash off him and they push him out there and go, you know, and he just busts out of his cage. And he's like, his performance is always just really untethered, right? He just loses control and just never misses a note, but it always seems like he's just borderline on the edge of control, right? Whereas this was a much more measured performance. They still did all of those things, but they did it in a way that's like a little bit smoother and a little bit chilled out and a little bit cooler, which is, again, this is why comparing the two acts, they kind of sang the same song, but vastly different worlds. And I appreciate that. I think that's actually fantastic, because what it means is that Home Free didn't come in and try to tackle what is arguably one of the most well-known R&B multi-vocalist kind of songs in the last 30 years, right? As far as popularity, that song was number one for a really long time. They have the confidence to go in and do Home Free's version of it rather than try to emulate Boys to Men, and which would have been a huge mistake. And so that's why I think this was a smashing success, is because it's Home Free's version of a song, not Home Free attempting to do Boys to Men. Yeah, fantastic. Thank you guys so much for recommending it, by the way. This is like This is why I'm here. This is the channel moves because you guys point me in the right direction. That's about all I got to say other than, wow. I love vocals. I love vocalists. This is fantastic. So if you feel like I brightened your day at all, feel free to support the channel. Just buy me a coffee. I'll leave a link in the description, or you can just hit the thanks button below the video. And also just like, share, subscribe, hit the bell. If you haven't already, if this is your first time watching, just hit subscribe and there'll be plenty more where this came from. Thanks again, guys. I'll catch you in the next one. Hey guys, this video is made possible by Enchroma. 1 in 6 guys and 1 in 200 women are colorblind, and if that happens to be you, there's something you can do about it. Click the link in the description, it'll take you to Enchroma's website where you can get a free eye test. And while you're there, maybe pick up some corrective lenses. They've got styles to suit everybody and a 60-day money-back guarantee, so you got really nothing to lose. And while you're there, use the code CHAOS in checkout to get 10% off. Tell them Primal Chaos sent you.